How are you using your Hollyland Mars 400S Pro? This is the Hollyland Mars 400S Pro. Costs about $650. It uses the 5 GHz frequency instead of 2.4 GHz frequency. Lasts up to 9 hours on my largest Sony NPF battery. It can even be powered with a basic USB power bank. If you're really savvy, you can even make your own DC cord so that you can power it with your external monitor if it has a camera DC port. With one transmitter, you can either go to 2 receivers, or 1 receiver and 2 smartphone apps or tablets, or you can go to 4 smartphone apps or tablets. Do I recommend it? If you're always filming with 3 or more cameras, yes. And if you want to, go ahead and make this mobile video village like I showed you in the beginning. Done! Roll that intro! Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're going to find out whether or not the Hollyland Mars 400S professional version is going to be the right solution for you and your overall filmmaking kit. And I want to thank Gear for sending this out to me so I can provide you with my review and that skit today. Now, coming in at approximately $650, if you buy the Gear bundle, you'll basically get everything you need because they will supply you with some small Sony NPF batteries at the recording of this video. And basically, all that's left is for you to get some HDMI cables if you don't already have one, and of course, a little monitor, portable or otherwise, depending on how you want to use it. Now, the standout feature about this specific unit is that it is using the 5 GHz frequency, which is better in terms of having more throughput. So your image is actually going to be sharper, because the old versions that I've used before that are like 2.4 GHz in that range, depending on how much processing needs to happen, sometimes you might actually get a slightly blurry image and you're not going to actually know, is the focus puller just not doing their job? But actually, it is sharp. So having that extra throughput is definitely good. Now, the next awesome thing is just how many powering options you have with this specific unit. You can either plug it into the wall. So if you're in a studio setup, you can basically just do any type of 12 volt up to 2 amps, and that's going to do just fine with a normal DC plug, which they do give you one in the box. If you want to use Sony NPF batteries on the go, you can do that, but you can also use USB battery banks. And I tested this with a very slim USB battery bank that only puts out 5 volts and 2 amps, and it was still able to power it. So having something that slim is going to be much better than having a big bulky Sony NPF battery coming out of it. When it comes to battery life, in my test with the Sony NPF battery, the largest one that I have, I purposely did not put the wireless antennas on it because I wanted to stress the system to thinking that the signal is too low, so it has to boost it inside. I don't know if that's actually how it works in there, but in theory, that's what I thought would stress it. In which case, we almost got 9 hours of battery life, which is really not that bad. Basically, one battery can last the entire production. Now, in terms of one cool hack that I found is that you can actually use your cheap Andy Cine or Vodka monitors that have a camera out port. And basically, you could use this port to power the Hollyland. So all you need to do is get some of these really cheap CCTV barrel plugs. I'll link everything down below. Some maybe about 14 gauge wire. Strip the wires, put the red in the positive side, put the black in the negative side, and therefore now you can just power the entire thing off of one Sony NPF battery. Now that's all the cool stuff out of the way, so now let's get down to the normal things. So yes, you can actually either go to a monitor with the receiver, or if you want to, you can actually just go ahead and use your smartphone app. Now, depending on the combination, it's going to limit in terms of what you can actually do. So one transmitter can actually go to 2 receivers. Or you can have one transmitter go to 1 receiver and 2 smartphones or tablets. Or you can do 1 transmitter to 4 smartphones or tablets. Those are the combinations that work. I don't actually have a whole bunch of these things to actually do a test, but basically just something you should know. Now, there is a fan inside this unit, which might make people freak out a little bit, but you can actually turn it off or have it do various different types of settings. The fan is actually not that loud, so I don't really think it's going to be that big of a deal, but if it is and you hear it on set, into the microphones, of course, then yes, you could turn it off if you want to. Now, in terms of latency, it is there, but it truly depends on what camera do you actually use. So if you're using a GH5, which is notorious for having a really pretty bad HDMI lag, this is what you're going to get. Whereas if you're going with a Sony a7S III, which doesn't have as many megapixels to process, the HDMI lag is actually much less. So you can expect some better performance like that. And last but not least, the awesome thing about the professional version is the fact that you do have some SDI ports when you need it. So depending on what kind of camera, you're good to go either way. And just on the off note, this is a 1080p transmitter. It's not a 4K transmitter. So if you do need a 4K transfer, not exactly sure why you would necessarily need it all that often, then this is not going to do it for you. And without further ado, let's go to our favorite distance tests. 1, 2, 3, and. All right, so we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. So this is approximately 50 feet away with semi line of sight since that thing is up here. So we'll continue. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. So here we are at approximately 100 feet away, and we'll continue. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. So here we are at 150 feet with a semi line of sight, basically just my head blocking. Continuing on. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. So here we are at 200 feet, you know, just a little bit. Keep going. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. So here we are at 250 feet, just semi line of sight. Continuing on. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. So here we are at 300 feet, semi line of sight. We'll continue on. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. So here we are at 350 feet, and we'll continue one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. So here we are at 400 feet, semi line of sight. There was a tree blocking the way. So let's continue back, and this is within line of sight the whole time. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. This is 350 feet. Keep going. 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. This is 300 feet away, and we're basically in line of sight at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. This is at 250 feet away, still within line of sight, and we'll continue on. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. Here we are at 200 feet, still within line of sight. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. Here we are at about 150 feet within line of sight, still going. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. So here we are at approximately 100 feet. Again, line of sight, antennas are straight up. 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.5. And then here we are at approximately 50 feet within line of sight. I'm pretty sure we're good here as we make our final move back over these snow mountains. Ugh. Big snow mount. And that is the distance test for the Hollyland in this configuration. So here we are making our way out of the adjacent room and into the room here. Walls right back there. This is everything's going on. So let's keep going. And all right, whole bunch of walls here as we make our way outside. This is where things can get kind of spotty because of all the things that's in the way. So here we are outdoors. And yeah, this is usually where things would crap out. So anyways, that's it. So what's the bottom line here? Is the Hollyland Mars 400S Pro something you should be thinking about for your overall filmmaking kit? And this really truly depends on what it is that you do. If you're only operating one camera and you are the camera operator and that's it, chances are you don't need something like this. Even if you are working with a client, when you're in a studio, there's generally a client monitor and they'll have an HDMI or an SDI cable for you, so you can run it directly into the monitor and you're good to go. You don't need to be spending $650 for this. But if you are, I guess if you're using jibs a whole lot, or maybe gimbals, in which case, then yeah, you could latch on a wireless HDMI transmitter and be able to see what's going on as a director. But where I see people that could benefit from this the most is if you are a narrative filmmaker and you're used to shooting with multiple cameras all the time. Your locations could be indoors, they could be outdoors, doesn't matter. Because when you get to this type of filmmaking, the director definitely needs to see certain principal shots to know if they actually got everything they need and they can just pack up and go to the next scene. So here's why I say a narrative filmmaker might want to think about this. Specifically speaking, the Hollyland is not like the traditional wireless HDMI transmitters that can get actually quite chunky. In fact, they even made quite chunky ones of their own. This one is quite slim, quite small. Not only that, they give you so many powering options. It doesn't matter if you want to use a very basic USB power bank, or maybe you want to use Sony NPF batteries. And then like I showed you, if you have Andy Cine or a FODCA monitor that has a camera out, you can easily just create your own little DC barrel plug with CCTV barrel plugs, or you could buy one depending on how long of a wire you need, and then simply power the whole thing from just the monitor itself. When you think about all that and how easy it was for me just to create basically a DIY, very basic mobile video village in a car, kind of like what you see with broadcast news, or if you want to, you can just pack everything up into that little Ridge case that I showed you, and you're good to go. Just bring yourself a C-stand and hike it up there 10 feet in the air, get your receivers and everything up in there, and you can basically create your own little mobile video village without needing to truck around a whole lot of different types of batteries, and you can just power everything off of the monitor itself. In fact, maybe one of these days I will kind of figure out, could I create everything into a Pelican case, kind of like what Caleb Pike has done in a couple of his DIY videos where he's just really streamlined everything into one thing. I think that would be a really good idea, especially, again, if you're on a narrative film set and you just have a Pelican case, you go to set, you go where you need to be, latch everything, power on the monitors, run your one light stand or two light stands up there, and you're good to go. So, with all that being said, I would say, yes, in those cases, a Hollyland system for a wireless video village is something you should be thinking about. And hey, that is it for this week, everybody. This video has made all the influence in your purchasing decisions. I would truly appreciate it if you check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you, just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.